able to take notes, if you're on the move, if you're at work, that's all good. We'll make sure that you guys can get the video as well. It also might be saved onto the Facebook. I'll have to confirm that with Claudia.
Yes, yes, we are transmitting right now on Facebook Live, so you guys can see it. I will put in the chat box the Facebook page from us, and so you can visit it whenever you want. You can rewatch it as many times as you want. So, thank you, Valerie, for being here today. Before we start, Val, I just wanted to introduce also the SBDC. I'm Claudia Shah. I work for the Small Business Development Centers, the SBDCs. And what we do is we offer free services to small business owners. And the free services means that we can help you with licenses, permits, social media marketing, and of course, all these loans and grants and everything that is going on for small business owners. Everything is free. We're paid by the government. So take advantage of it in case you're not our client. If you're already our client, that's great. Let us know if we can help you further. I'll put some information in the chat box about us so you can contact us whenever you need something. And we have the honor today of having Valon Tiberios. Valerie is a great social media group and we love her. She has a great presentation. She's going to help us this year with two other topics that she will be mentioning before we end the conversation today, so you guys can join us with the other webinars that we have in February and March. So like this, we try to put a lot of webinars that can help you as a small business owner, as a solopreneur. Most of you are solopreneurs. So anyway, Valerie, welcome and take it over.
Awesome. Thanks, Claudia. Happy to be here. Yeah, I've done a few webinars for the SBDC. And before like working in marketing and doing webinars, I actually was a client of one of the SBDCs on the East Coast. So it really is a really valuable organization. As a business owner, you know, you're wearing a lot of hats, you're asking a lot of questions. So having a free resource like that is really phenomenal. I definitely encourage you guys to, if you have a question, it's a really good place to start at least. Like just to I guess to clarify, I'm Valerie. I'm super excited to talk to you guys today about creating a content calendar for your social media, and specifically in a very strategic way. I do have a couple of other webinars coming up that Claudia mentioned in the next few months, and those are going to go into more detail on specific platforms. But this session is more designed to give you really a general content calendar overview and some techniques so that you can really keep your content new and exciting for your friends and followers. So I will talk a little bit about my future webinars at the end, so you'll have the dates and you'll know what platforms I'm going to talk about. But again, this one is just a really general overview on how to create a really amazing content calendar for your social media. And then kind of like I mentioned, for people that were just joining in, you're just going to use the chat function, and I'm going to give time for questions at the end of each section, so we can try to keep it to an hour, and get as much in there as we can. So let's get started. Let's see. Just a little bit about me. I'm Valerie Ontiveros. In 2012, my background is in tech actually. So in 2012, I co-founded Easy Tiger Apps, and we specialized in creating photo and video editing apps, mainly for iPhones and for Android phones. So our apps were really focused on supporting young artists and entrepreneurs so that they could create visual content to share on social media. So that was a big way that I got into social media early on, and that was actually the main way that we marketed our business. So Instagram was one of the biggest platforms that we used and developed over time, where we could really connect with our audience and build real relationships with them. It allowed us to actually create a community, and which we weren't able to do through traditional advertising methods, right? So not only did it allow us to advertise our business, but it also created a space for us to communicate, provide customer support, get feedback, and really help people and make sure that they were having the best time with our products. So now I'm actually a lead facilitator for a company called Basic Bananas here in the United States. And we teach marketing workshops all over the world. And social media is just one facet that we teach. We're based out of Australia, but we have offices in Canada, the US, and Europe. And we work with mentoring small business owners. And my intention today is to show you not only how to use social media for your business, like I said earlier, in a really strategic way, because I'm aware as a business owner myself that you're wearing a lot of hats. And I think social media is just one part of running your business. And a lot of times it can feel like a full time job to try to figure out what to do. And so my goal is to really kind of share with you some simple techniques and things that you can do to help you save time and to make sure that your social media is actually being impactful for your business. Because that's the whole point, right? It's to grow your audience and to grow your business. So first, I want to start by talking about why is social media so important. And there's kind of a few key elements. I know that social media, up until this past year, it was already such a big platform. But one thing to also be thinking about is usage is up across all of the platforms. So no matter what channel you're on, if you're on TikTok or Facebook or Instagram, usage is up. Now that we are home, we're social distancing, we're really using this as a way to really check in with our communities, be entertained, and really engage with people and even brands that we find fun or inspiring or that are offering value. So, as a small business owner, because people are checking in with these platforms multiple times a day, it can be a really great place for you to build connections with people, and also just stay top of mind. The next thing about social media and why it's so important is that any size business can be successful on social media. So, social media is something that's way more accessible to small business owners than traditional advertising, things like billboards or commercials or radio, right? Those can be really expensive for, especially on a small business budget. So, social media is a lot more accessible to small business owners. And in fact, I would say that the brands and businesses that are so super successful on social media are not necessarily the ones that are only spending money on ads. They are the ones that almost feel like friends or family members, people that are showing different aspects of their business and being really transparent and really accessible. So it can be really powerful for a small business. Third, it allows you to connect directly with your audience. So earlier I talked about, how we utilized Instagram in my previous business in order to really build community and communicate with our audience. And so this allows you to do that. You can actually speak directly with somebody that is using your product or thinking about using your product. So it's a really great immersive experience that you get to create with your audience, right? This can make you more relatable, right? On one end, it can help you to appear more just like a normal human being, or on the other end, it can allow you to build really strong trust and position yourself as a credible source of information with your customers. So, really thinking about how do you want to connect with your audience. Because social media is going to allow you to be really accessible to them, and it's going to be a lot cheaper and a lot less time that you're spending than traditional kind of methods of communication like phone calls or one-on-one emails, right? Because you can do a social media post and reach all of your audience that way. The next is that it allows you to provide social proof for your business. So when other people tag you or like your post or share your post, their friends and followers can actually see that. And so it really allows you to leverage your existing happy customers, right? They're happy customers if they're posting about you and excited about your products. You can really leverage those people to get in front of more people. And like I said earlier, it really starts to add more credibility to you when other people are engaging with you and liking your stuff and sharing your products and services. So the first thing I want to talk about, because it's really the number one rule of social media, but it's also the number one rule of marketing. Um, when you're thinking about social media, the most important thing you can consider is your audience. And so we always want to start by tailoring your content to your audience. So really getting inside the heads of who it is that you are trying to attract and do business with. I always say that good marketing, it doesn't chase people, it attracts people, right? And that's really true for social media as well. The content, the things that you're posting about, it really needs to be attractive to the person that you are trying to bring into your business so that they actually interact with it and they're providing value for it. I think, we're all running around the world being advertised to all of the time. And social media can be so great because it doesn't feel like a big advertisement, right? It's a way that feels really organic. It doesn't feel like a billboard. So you really want to get into the minds of your customers to really understand what makes sense for you to post. And this is going to play out, whether you're just planning on when you want to post or exactly what you want to post. You always want to be viewing your posts through the eyes of your customer and really tailor that content for them. I was reading an article a few months ago, and they made a really poignant point that I wanted to be sure to share. They said a personal profile is all about you. What you ate for lunch, what you're doing today, what you're wearing. But a business profile needs to be all about them. So we're going to talk a lot about how can you make it about them. And when I say them, that's just your audience. It's the person that you're really trying to attract. So the first question I always get asked is, what platforms should I be on? Should I make an account for every platform that's out there? Or right now, I've had a lot of clients reach out to me and say, "Hey, TikTok is really popular. Like, should I get on TikTok?" And my answer is always going back to who is your customer and how do we make it about them, right? So the first question I want to ask myself is, where does my audience hang out online? Where are they spending the most time? Are they on TikTok, or are they on Tumblr, or are they on Facebook? So really ask yourself, does my audience hang out on here? Are they spending time on this platform? And if the answer is yes, then hey, sure, maybe you go ahead and try it. And if the answer is no, then you might want to reconsider, because as a business owner, like I mentioned, you're probably juggling a lot of things, and social media can be a full-time job, especially if you are trying to be on every single platform. And if you find that fun and are excited to try out, then by all means do it. But if you are limited on time and you have other things to focus on, I really am of the school of thought to choose one or two platforms and do them really well, as opposed to getting overwhelmed by having too many profiles that you're needing to manage and then nothing gets done. So really consider and think about who your audience is and where they're going to be hanging out. And there's some general guidelines around a lot of the popular platforms. I'll rattle through some of these guidelines, but you could also look online and just look up statistics for the type of user base that is in each platform. Some of the more popular platforms, for example, like Instagram, is a really powerful social media tool. It's especially great for physical products because they are so visual. So these might be things like clothing, home decor, even pet products and pet supplies. Um, Even if you are a service based business, but you can do videos, like maybe you're a fitness instructor. So anything that's super visual can be a really great place to go to Instagram for. Also, one thing you want to be thinking about with Instagram is that you can actually buy products through Instagram. So if you do have a physical product, like I said earlier, clothing, beauty, decor, pet products, stuff like that, that could be a really great place to try because people will actually be able to purchase those items from you. The second I'll talk about is Facebook. So Facebook, first of all, they are one of the biggest ad platforms. So if you are a small business owner that's thinking of doing ads maybe soon or in the near future, I would definitely consider getting on Facebook because it's such a great place to run advertisements from. But they also have some really great additional features. These are things like their group features, for example, where you can create small communities of groups of people that you're maybe giving VIP service to or only working with them. So I've seen this work really well for people that are coaches or authors, or maybe you're selling an e-course. This could be a really great place to try out for you. Another one of my favorite platforms is LinkedIn. And LinkedIn is really a network for professionals, right? That's the whole idea. So if you are a business that services other businesses, so you're a B2B brand, I would definitely consider checking out LinkedIn. It allows you to network and connect with other professionals. So if that's who you're targeting, it really makes sense for you to try that platform out. And then TikTok, I'm just going to mention it because I do get a lot of questions about TikTok now that it seems to be really popular. I will say it's a very young demographic, and that is changing as new people are joining in. And it can be a really fun platform, but the thing you do need to remember with TikTok is that it's very focused on entertainment. So you have to be prepared to create a lot of unique video content if you want to be on the TikTok platform. It's not something that you can just reshare graphics or infographics. It really takes a lot of time to creating this content. So if maybe you have a really big personality or a lot to say, it's a personal brand, like maybe you're an author or a coach and you have a lot of value to give and you don't mind being in front of the camera or someone on your team is like that, then TikTok can be a really great place to try out. And these are just some of the top platforms. There's so many out there. So I do suggest, either asking your clients, hey, are you on Instagram or where are you spending time these days online if you have that relationship with them? Or you can try to really get into the minds of your clients and think about where they're spending the most time, but that's the number one rule. I'll answer these questions about different platforms at the end of this section, so you can type them in, but I'll get to them in a second. Once you know the platforms that you want to be on, the next thing you're going to really be thinking about is what exactly are you going to post about? Right? So content is really king when it comes to social media. And what you post shows how interesting you are, it can show how trustworthy you are, but most importantly, it encourages people to come back. Right? If you're really giving value, if you're encouraging people to come back and see you. So you really want to be investing the time that you're spending in creating this good content, or people will not come back. It can get really boring. And maybe you can think of some people that you're following on social media, some brands that only talk about themselves or their business or their industry. That can get really boring over time. So, one of the techniques that we do with all of our members is what we call the content themes theory. And it works really well because you are getting into the mind of your customer and you're appealing to the different interests that they might have. So, we always want to remember we want to make it about them. And so it's really simple. The way that it works is each box just represents a different theme or a topic that's relevant to your audience and your business. And you really want to have about 4 to 5 different themes. And always suggest writing these down. We do this exercise every 90 days just in case the themes change or the content changes as our client changes over the year. And we actually have it hanging up in our office. So it's like if we're having a hard time thinking of, hey, what are we going to post? We look back at the themes, and that helps us to trigger some ideas about things that we can talk about. So I just want to show this in action really quickly. The way that this works is you just put your customer hat on, right? You start by thinking about your audience, and then ask yourself or your team, what else are they interested in? Or it could be, what else do they need to know before they come to work with me? So, an example for our company, Basic Bananas, again, our market is small business owners and entrepreneurs. So, we ask ourselves, what else are they interested in? And we've come up with quite a few. So, the first one is team culture, right? Because if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, you're probably leading some sort of team, and team culture is something that's really important to our audience. And so that's something that we also talk about on social media. Team culture and what we're doing to build our team culture. The next theme we've come up with is leadership. So, again, as a small business owner and entrepreneur, you're automatically in a position of leadership. And so, a lot of times we're sharing what we're learning about leadership, things that have worked for us, but leadership in general as a theme. The next one is obviously marketing, because that's the main thing that we teach is marketing. And these are techniques that we're learning or things that we're incorporating into our business. We also talk about products. And so these might be our products and things that we're doing. It might be webinars that we're hosting or programs that we have coming out, but it could also be other products as well. So maybe other products that we're using to help grow our business. It doesn't just have to be our own products. The next one we've come up with is called sustainability. So this is just something that is a value of our business. Something that's important to us is sustainability. We also love to feature our members and their success stories. So what are they doing well? What's helping for them? People really love stories, especially on social media. It's better to show people instead of just tell them. And then another thing we've looked at is inspirational quotes. Because as a business owner, sometimes things get hard, and inspirational quotes tend to be something that help really people to gravitate to. Another way I like to think about this is, your content could fall into these three areas. So, another way you might go about thinking about your themes are, what entertains my audience? So, what does my audience find entertaining? So, the things that people are more likely to share are things that they find funny or entertaining, right? That's why cat and puppy videos are so popular on social media, right? So, how can you entertain them, like tell a story as opposed to just tell them what they should go do? The next one is inspire. So, what will my audience find inspiring? The most viral content, the things that tend to be shared and reshared over and over again, are the things that make people feel something. So, maybe there's some positive impact that you're doing in the world. Maybe there's some really great results that you've gotten for a client. Maybe it's your own personal story, but can you draw people in by inspiring them? And then the third thing is, how can you educate your audience, right? So I always want to be coming from a place of value and really giving before we're asking for a sale. And this also helps to demonstrate your expertise. If you can educate somebody in a 1 minute Instagram video, then what can you do in a full hour session with them? So really be thinking about entertaining, inspiring, and educating. And I'll pause there for a second and see. I know we had a couple of questions. So, one question is, what about YouTube as a platform? YouTube is a fantastic platform. The thing is really similar with YouTube is it's more for long form content. So, if you're only shooting really short videos, it's going to do less well. I would say aim for anything around 3 to 5 minutes or longer on YouTube, and just make sure that you're providing a lot of value as you can. So, if you have the ability and the time to create and edit your videos, YouTube can be a really phenomenal place for you to entertain, inspire, and educate your audience. And you also asked on themes, are you posting photos or telling a storyline about the photos? So when we're talking about themes, we're just kind of taking a step back and thinking of, what are the different topics I'm going to talk about, and then you can talk about those topics, in a story or like a video, in a photo, or even a series of videos or photos. So the themes, we're just looking at the overarching topic, but then when we get into actually creating the content, which we'll talk about in the next section, you'll actually kind of see the ways that you might be able to do that. And Dave is asking, would you go for no presence on a platform or an inactive account? So we're going to get into the next section where I talk about consistency. But I would say, some people will do the technique where they'll say, hey, I'm going to start an account on every platform so I can save the name of my business on that platform, but I'm not going to be active. And one challenge of that is, if somebody then goes and looks at your business and you're not being active, they might think, wow, this person's out of business and they're not doing anything on this platform. So that's the danger in setting up account but actually not using it. And that's why I think really focusing on one or two platforms that you can commit to regularly posting on makes more sense than starting something and stopping it, because I've done that quite a few times where I'll look up a company online and I'll say, oh, they're not active, they must not be doing business anymore, and so then I go find someone else. And so that's something that can be really challenging for you. All right, let's hop to the next section. The next thing you want to be thinking about is consistency. So consistency is really important. First of all, like I was mentioning just a second ago, putting posts out regularly helps you to stay on top of mind for your customers in a way that's not pushy, right? It just reminds them that you exist and that you are up to some amazing things and you're out there changing the world, or you're servicing your clients. Um, and it just reminds you that you're there. And also, something to be thinking about is, these platforms actually reward profiles that are regularly active. So if you are not active, what will tend to happen is that, Instagram will say, wow, this person's not really active, so I'm not going to show their post to as many people. So consistency is really important on twofold. One, customers want to see that you're being consistent and be reminded that you exist. And on the other end, the actual software itself is going to actually be rewarding people that are active regularly. So when we're thinking about consistency, the number one question I get is how often to post? When should I post? And again, we want to be consistent, but we know that this isn't necessarily something that you're dedicating your full life to. So you want to be thinking about when is your audience active? So if you're thinking about when to post, again, getting into the mind of your audience, when are they going to be online? Thinking about that. You don't have to post every day, but is my audience going to be more active on the weekends or are they going to be more active on the weekdays? And you could even consider what hours are they most active. So, one way you can find this out is by actually, if you already have a social media profile, you can go and you can look into the analytics, or Instagram calls these insights, and it will actually tell you when your audience is most active. That'll tell you the days that they're active, and it will tell you the times of the days that your audience is active, because you want to be posting and you want to be online when they're online. If you don't have any channels yet and you don't have access to insights, you could just really put your mind like, and really consider who the audience is. So for example, if my audience is busy moms, I'm really going to aim to be active when the kids are either at school or when they're asleep, right? Because when they are busy, they're running the kids around, they're doing stuff with their children, they're not going to have time for their phone. So really, you can either look at your analytics or just try to make your best guess assumption of when are they going to be the most active online. The next thing I like to think about posting is, what can I commit to? So I think for me, consistency also means being realistic. So maybe you're thinking of, hey, I'm going to have set days of the week that I'm going to post on. One thing that's doing, like, one positive benefit of that is that when you have set days of the week, your followers know when to come back. So some of my clients actually choose very specific days out of the week and they set themes to those days. So one example here on the right hand side of the screen, I have hashtag Motivation Monday. So Motivation Monday is a really popular theme for Mondays on social media, and people will share anything from motivational quotes to they share stories about themselves. They might even do fitness routines. So they really, the motivation can really appeal to what it is that they're actually selling. It might be different for every kind of company, but this is a really popular theme day. Or you could even come up with your own weekly theme days. For example, I have a client of mine and she does something called Tune In Tuesday. So every Tuesday, she goes on live and she shares a valuable piece of advice. And she does it every Tuesday at 11:11 a.m. And her followers really love this because it's a regular time that they know she's going to be available. So sometimes they even go on and ask her questions for her Tune In Tuesday posts. And she doesn't even have to come up with what she's going to talk about because she can just answer their questions. So that can be something that's really powerful if you really think about consistency. The next one, I always look at the calendar and say, okay, what holidays or special days would it make sense for your brand to post about? So, for example, yesterday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and you probably saw a lot of companies and brands, posting Martin Luther King Jr. quotes. So, you can go through the calendar and ask yourself, what holidays make sense to post about? And again, you always want to think about, does it align with my audience? So, for example, if my audience is not based in the United States, for example, creating a post about celebrating the 4th of July wouldn't really make too much sense. So, again, what holidays does it make sense for my audience to post out about? Another thing you should consider with this is that there are a lot of these marketing holidays, things like World Donut Day or National Cheeseburger Day, right? So potentially these could be beneficial for your business. What I would suggest is just go on Google and type social media calendar 2021 and see if there's any of these kind of marketing holidays that make sense for your business to attach themselves to. And you'll want to do this ahead of time. I like to do this kind of the beginning of the month so that when I, determine what days I'm like special holidays I need to make content for, I have enough time to actually go about and do it. I'm going to answer just a couple of questions about consistency while they're popping in. So Wolfgang is asking, how important do you feel interaction on social media is rather than just using it as a publishing platform? Social media interaction is almost more important than posting every single day, because remember, social media is social. It needs to be a give and take. It needs to be a back and forth communication. So as much as it is about publishing content, it's also about interacting with your audience. So I talked a little bit about that earlier when we talked about building community, right? Things like providing customer support, making yourself available. This example of the Tune In Tuesday is wonderful because you're inviting people to actually be with you live on that platform and to engage with you. So remembering social media is social. That's the whole point of it. Caitlin is asking, how do you stay consistent without being boring? And so when I spoke about the content themes, that's one of the ways that I stay consistent without being boring. I really get into the mindset of who my customer is and what is important to them. And it might not even be necessarily about my business. So when I, spoke earlier, like we teach marketing workshops. However, we recognize that our clients are entrepreneurs and there's other things, other facets of their business that are important to them. And so incorporating some of those themes, so it's not just speaking about my product all the time, can get really boring. But when I start to incorporate other themes that they might be passionate about or they might need help with, I think that's one really great way to stay consistent without being boring. So thinking about, am I bringing value with this post? Am I answering a question? Am I providing a service through my social media as opposed to just broadcasting information about myself? And Maria's asking, how many posts are the best option to do weekly on Facebook specifically? It really depends on, again, thinking about your audience. So when is your audience active? Are they somebody that comes in and checks on Facebook every single day? Or are there certain times that they're going to be most active? I would focus on trying to be online when they're online. And again, what can I commit to actually making quality content? Because even if you're posting every single day, but the what you're posting isn't valuable, that's one way to really lose your audience. So more so than finding out the best, how many as a recommended amount of posts, I would just really understand how many quality posts can I commit to making this week and focus on that. And I will do a Facebook course. I think it's going to come up in March. I'll flash the date at the end of the session so you guys have more information about that. All right, let's move on. So, we actually use a really basic planner to come up with a guide for our content posting and frequency. So, this is just really what it looks like. It's super super simple. And the first thing we do is we go through and we determine, what days are we going to post this week. I might circle them or I might put little stars by them. And then the next thing I do is denote what themes am I going to post about. So, on Monday, I'm going to do a Motivation Monday post. On Wednesday, I'm going to do a post about Wisdom Wednesday, right? So I think about what are the themes I'm going to post about. On Saturday, I'm going to do a whole post about team building and leadership. So thinking about what are the themes. And then from there, I'll actually fill in the topic. Information through creative and copy. And I'm going to kind of break these down in just a second, just to touch on them a little bit. But I'll actually just put bullet points in there of, okay, so for Monday's post, what I'm thinking is going to be, it's an inspirational quote with just text over a photo. And I might just put some bullet points in there for that. And the copy, the thing I'm going to talk about is I'm going to talk about an inspirational quote about brain plasticity, right? So I'll just put little bullet points in there just to remind myself what I decided to make. And this is also really helpful if you work with other people. So if you have other people helping with you with your social media, you can map it all out here, and then you can hand this off to someone and they can actually help you source the content for that. I also have copies of these templates, so I could totally share them. I'll flash up my email at the end, or you can always reach out to Claudia as well, and we can make sure that we get these documents for you if you think that they would be helpful for you. So to kind of break it down, earlier I talked about the creative and the copy. So I really wanted to make sure I go into more depth into into these with my other workshops, but I really wanted to touch on them just so that you guys have a sense of, these two really important components. Social media usually is really about the visual elements, right? So the first thing I want to talk about is the creative element. So these are just, it could be an image, it can be a video, or like I said earlier, it could be a series of photos and videos, right? And oftentimes this is something that people see before they even read the underneath it or before they go to your profile. So the most important thing is you want this image to be really eye-catching, again, to your target audience, right? So, or they're going to keep scrolling. And in fact, this helps you for people to remember the information that you're putting out there. I think the statistics are like 65% of people in the world are actual visual learners, and they're more likely to remember information if there's a strong visual attached to it. So the creative is a very important element. And so I always, this is just a little mental checklist that I go through myself, is I ask, does this image or video represent my brand? So it doesn't need to be overly produced, or you don't have to hire a photographer, but you do want it to, be clear and focus and good lighting and good composition. You do want it to be representative of the professionalism of your brand. The next question you want to ask is, does it appeal to my target market? So again, always looking through the lens of who your audience is. They should appeal to exactly who it is that you want to work with and you want to attract more of. And maybe it's even focusing on the lifestyle they want for themselves, even if the photo isn't of a human person. So you want to be thinking about, does this reflect my target market? Are these the people that I want to attract more of? I know we were working with a fitness instructor, and he was saying, I'm having a really hard time attracting, the right people to my business. And we looked at his Instagram account, and the images he was showing are of other people. So his target market was really women in their 30s and 40s, but the images he was showing was of very young women, and he was having a hard time attracting the right person. And that's because he wasn't reflecting them in the actual visuals of the social media account. So that's something that's really important. Make sure they reflect who you want your audience to be. And then the last thing is, would I share or save this video or image? So one of the most important metrics right now on social media is, are people saving and sharing the content? And so really making sure that, whatever you have in there is something that people want to see, right? If they share it and they save it, that's more like, it's a much faster spread for you and for your brand. So people share things that they find beautiful or intriguing or funny, right? So always make sure that whatever it is that you're trying to promote, whatever the copy is underneath it, that the visual is also reflecting that. The next element of the post is the copy. And this is just a fancy word for the text that goes under the post, right? And again, we always want to be thinking about your audience, because when your audience is looking at your post, they are thinking what's in it for them. So, really thinking about their desires and their frustrations, or the things that they're going to find valuable. So it could be, like I said earlier, appealing to emotions. So making them feel. It could be a story, a personal anecdote, a testimonial. It's more powerful to bring people in with emotions as opposed to just making broad statements. Again, focusing all about them. So what is something that they need to know? What is something beneficial to them? What is something that they can like learn and then go take action on? So can you get them a little win in just a small post? And then I always want to make sure that you include a call to action. So a call to action is just an invitation that you're giving to your audience to take a desired action. This could be something like going to your website, buying a product, sending you an email, booking a call. It could even be, commenting, liking, or sharing your post, right? You always want to give them a next step, because on social media, what tends to happen is people just continue to scroll, but you want to invite them to take a next step. So really be thinking about what are some calls to actions that you can incorporate. Now, let's see. I know that there's some questions in here. Let's see. There were some questions around content scheduling. Yep, there. Facebook is a great content scheduler, but there's I'll share another one later on that can work on all the platforms. That's really helpful. Let's see.
Valerie,
Yes.
I'd like to make two of the biggest comments and issues that I see with our clients. One is the content. When people are posting, they don't know what they're posting about. They don't know what to do. They just want to post something. So I think creating that goal is one of the main things that everybody needs to take in account and take the time to do it. I know it's time consuming, but you do have to think about, what do I want to post? And the call to action, that's another one. And one of the questions is really valid, that if it is always paid for a call to action, not necessarily. You can, in your post, create that call to action desire or need. So you can post something saying, if you need more information, this is our email. If you need more information, this is our phone number, or visit our website, or things like that. So a call to action not necessarily is a paid ad. So
Correct.
that in
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah, I see Maria had that question. So, yes, when you are setting up a post on Facebook and you're setting up, let's say, a promoted post, that is where you'll likely see this call to action button. I'm not talking about setting up the call to action. It's like Claudia's just saying, as simple as writing it in the text. So maybe I share a post and I'm telling a story, and then I always at the end of that story, I want to invite them to do something. So, like Claudia said, it could be as simple as, send me an email if you've also experienced this problem, or it could be, DM me for more information, right? So you can always include a call to action without it being a paid ad. It's simply, I'm just talking about typing into the copy of your post, giving them a next step. What happens a lot of times is people don't think about a call to action and they just want to post for the sake of posting. And this is not being strategic, right? This is about, we want to focus on how to be strategic. How do we actually get our social media from over here to get someone to actually work with me or hire me or buy my product? And that's by you inviting them to take a desired action, because people don't know what you want them to do next. So this can be a really, really beneficial way for you to gently guide people into what is the next step for them. So it's like the next step in booking me is actually booking a free consultation before I take on a client, or come to my website and find out more information about, this post that I've spent so much time looking at. And to speak to the other thing you were saying, Claudia, the content themes, that can be so helpful, especially if you're like, okay, I need to get something out. You're just not posting for the sake of posting. You're really looking at the themes that you've worked on with your team or with your partner, and understand, what are things that we can be sharing that really can help people and provide value. And I know we did have a question about Hootsuite as well. And I'll kind of get into this in this next section, actually. Why don't we just go ahead and move on to that, which is work smarter. So now that you have an idea of like the components of making a content calendar, right? We've talked about your audience, getting into their minds so we know where to be online, what times to be online, the themes and the topics that we're going to talk about. We also know the two different elements, right? The visual element and the written element of a good post. Now I want to talk about how can we work smarter instead of working harder, right? So what are some hacks? What are some cool techniques that I like to utilize? The first thing I always want to encourage people is to repurpose. So earlier somebody asked a question about YouTube. If you are spending time creating amazing videos, long form videos on your YouTube channel, you can absolutely repurpose small snippets of that on your other social media platforms. So let's say you have a vlog or a YouTube channel, you could take, a 30-second clip where you send a very valuable tip and share that on your Instagram. You don't have to create all new content for the Instagram. You could just repurpose it. So this is an example of how at Basic Bananas we repurpose our content. We actually have a podcast. We also have a blog, and we have a YouTube channel. So whenever we're filming our podcast, we are actually also video filming that podcast as well, so that we can use it both on the podcast app and on our YouTube channel. And then when we're actually writing our blog for that week, we're also going to be touching on the topic that we talked about on our podcast. So now we're turning one podcast into a podcast, a YouTube, and we have an outline for a blog. And then we can take snippets of all of those pieces and share it on our other social media channels and invite people to come and check out the long form content on one of the platforms that they feel better with, right? So if they want to read, they can go to our blog. If they want to watch a video, they can go to the YouTube, or if they're busy and they're driving, they can, get more information on the actual podcast episode. So really go back, maybe make a list of all the content that you're already creating, a blog, a newsletter, a podcast, like I said earlier, and find out, okay, how can I repurpose small snippets of this content for my other channels, whether it be Instagram or Facebook or Twitter even, right? So really be thinking about how can I extract elements that I'm already creating so that you don't have to make new content for every single platform all the time. This can be a huge time saver, and a lot of times I'll work with clients and I'm like, wait, you're sharing so much valuable stuff on YouTube. You have to remember that just because someone's following you on YouTube doesn't mean that they're following you on Instagram as well. And even if they are, that's okay. I think they say it takes on average 7 times for a person to hear something, for them to actually be able to absorb the information and retain that information and apply that information. So it's okay if you're reiterating yourself on different platforms, as long as what you're reiterating is extremely valuable and useful to your audience. The next one, yes, schedule your content. So earlier there was a few people in the chat, they're talking about Facebook's Creator Studio. This is something that can be really beneficial for you to schedule your Facebook and also your Instagram posts, because they're both owned by Facebook. So if you have the opportunity to create and schedule your content ahead of time, that can be really helpful to you to stay on track and to not forget to post for some of those special events. So what one of the things that we do when I work with clients is I'll say, okay, let's make your whole calendar for a month. And can you then spend tomorrow afternoon and just create all of the content for this next month that can be then scheduled in? So Hootsuite can be really beneficial for you. Facebook Creator Studio if you're only focusing on Facebook and Instagram. One of my favorite tools is Later. This one lets me manage Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. So if I'm on a lot of different platforms, I might come and use a platform like Later, and it just really depends on the platforms that you're working on. um, you can you go on Google and type in like social media scheduler, and you can see all the different types. You can see the pricing plans, and you can see what platforms that they work the best for. I just like Later because these are the platforms that I'm on, and they have a free version too. So you can actually try it before you decide to invest any money into it. But creating and scheduling your content ahead of time is really, really smart, and it really helps you to stay on top of it and not get overwhelmed last minute. Some other tools that I really love for social media are Canva. So this is like, like Photoshop editor basically on your phone or on the computer. They have a free version that's actually very robust. And so a lot of times if you see posts with a lot of text on them, they're usually made in Canva. They also have free templates. So it can be really helpful if you're not a graphic designer, just to go in and start getting some stuff created. Another one that I love is iMovie. It really, if you have an iPhone, it's already on your phone, it's free, and it allows you to stitch together and edit your videos. It's just one of the ones that I found that's really, really simple to use. VSCO. So we talked about how the visual element is so important with your social media. VSCO has a lot of beautiful filters so that you can really make sure that your images feel cohesive and are eye catching. And another tool that I really love to use, it's a visual planner. So if you're working with multiple people, Airtable is a really cool resource where you can go in and you can say, hey, here's all the themes that I want to talk about and some bullet points of what I'm going to talk about on my social media. Can you go and find me images? And then someone can come in and add the images. So it's a really great collaborative platform if you do work with multiple people. Let's say you have somebody helping you work on your social media. It's one of the tools that we use in Basic Bananas and really love. Now I did want to open it up for any additional questions, anything that you need elaboration on. We have some time. So go ahead and pop those in. And then just to kind of reiterate, this is my contact information. You can email me, Valerie at Basic Bananas, or reach out to the Basic Bananas social media. And then I do have 2 more webinars coming up with the SBDC. So on February 16th, we're going to go into Instagram for small business. So this is just focused on the Instagram platform. And I've tried to distill down, just the most valuable components of that platform for a small business. And then on March 16th, I'm going to go over Facebook for a small business. So if you have questions about Facebook in particular, I'll be able to give you more information on that.
Perfect, Valerie. Thank you. Thank you so much. It's so
Yeah,
much
of course.
information, very, very complete. And like I said, a lot of our clients do need so much of this. And I know it can be very intimidating and more when we are like solopreneurs, but that's why I think some of the tools that you mentioned are good. We also use Later, for example, because we don't only have Facebook and Instagram, we also have Twitter, and sometimes we use YouTube. So the Facebook and Instagram, like you said, the Creator Studio is just for those two, and it's good to have it. So one of the questions that I have here is that what if I hire a third party? Should I do that, or should I do this by myself?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it varies based on your budget, right? How much you have to spend. And, it can be really helpful working with the third party. One thing I would definitely recommend finding out before hiring anyone is actually asking what profiles have you worked on, because just because somebody is a good social media marketer maybe in one industry doesn't mean that they're going to be a good social media marketer in your industry. So I think it's important to make sure that you ask them for examples of their work, and make sure that what they are posting and the visual elements and the writing, that their copy that they're using is going to work for your brand as well. So don't be afraid to ask for their profile and ask for some references to make sure. I also think that, we always kind of use the example of like a ship, right? As a business owner, you are the captain, and that doesn't mean that you have to be the one that's dropping the anchor and hoisting up the sail and all that stuff, but you do need to know how it works and how it fits into your business. Because sometimes what can happen is somebody can be fantastic at social media marketing, and they're active and they're posting stuff, but it's not necessarily translating it into business for you. So you do want to make sure that it's impacting your business. And the only way for you to know that is to really understand where it fits in.
Perfect. Thank you. I don't see more questions here. I just see everybody happy and satisfied with all the great info that you gave them. I hope they get a lot of great ideas. Again, I really want to reiterate, when you put a post, make sure you have a goal behind that post. Make sure that you really have a call to action, whatever it is. I had one client who was selling perfumes, and she put like 3 great pictures of her perfume, and that's about it. And she had 63 views, and that's it. And she was like, I don't know why I'm not selling. And I'm like, where do I click to go and purchase it, or to go and inquire about it? And she's like, I don't know. so
No,
so
that's a really
that's
great point.
yeah, that's a big mistake. And I know it's something very basic, but people make a lot of mistakes with that call to action. So she missed 63 people who hit in the pictures, and who could she maybe get maybe 1%, 2%, whatever it is, but she lost them.
Yeah, I always like to, your call to action should be so easy an 8-year-old can figure it out, right? You do have to invite people to take some action, or else they're going to say, oh, that's nice. And they're going to keep scrolling. It's when you plant the seed, that's actually when something can grow.
Okay. Okay. You have here a question. Great information. Were great. Is there a link to the charts?
Yeah, you can email me, Valerie at basicbananas.com, and I can send you a either Word document version or a Google Doc version, whatever works better for you. So you can just email me, and I can email them to you.
And do you have any recommendation for email marketing, MailChimp or others? We at the SBDC, we use Constant Contact, just FYI. And Constant Contact has a discount for SBDC clients. So,
Oh, well, there you go. If you can get a discount, I would say use Constant Contact. I do really like MailChimp. I think that their email builder, their templates are beautiful. But the most important thing is that you actually are using it. So there's so many email marketing platforms out there. I suggest looking at some YouTube tutorials and make sure that you like how the dashboard looks, because if it's challenging for you to figure out, then you're more likely not going to use it. So that's my thing, is what does it look like on the back end and how easy is it for you to set up an email. But Constant Contact and MailChimp are two really great ones, and I believe there's some free
yes,
pricing plans for those as well.
they do have like free trials if you want to like just test it out and see
Yeah.
it. The other one is HubSpot, I guess, but that one is not free email marketing. That one you do have to pay for email. So, but anyway.
Yeah, so it depends on your budget, but I would just, definitely start with something that's free and something that you feel good about using and that you feel comfortable behind there, actually getting your emails out.
Mhm. Yeah, so perfect.
Fantastic. And
Any
then, oh, where will the webinar be shared? Just on the SBDC website for the
we will
recording?
share it. Yeah, the links. I normally send an email marketing newsletter every week. So we will be announcing and sending the links in one of our newsletters. So we already have the contact information for whomever signed up for our webinar today. So we will definitely be sharing that.
Awesome. Fantastic. So hopefully we'll see some of you guys in the next workshops in next month or in March. And yeah, if you have any additional questions, like I said, you can reach out to my email. You can reach out to the SBDC. I love to hear feedback and ways that I could make, these more valuable and better for you. So feel free to reach out with any additional questions. If something pops up over the week or something like that, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you, everybody, for your time today. Valerie, thank you very, very much again. It was awesome, like always. You are great and great for sharing all this info, and we look forward for the next ones.
Awesome. Have a great one, guys. Looking forward to it.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye.